Good morning, Tallahassee. It's time to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Wake Up War Chant is brought to you by TNT Supercenter, 14585 U.S. Highway 19, Thomasville, Georgia. Here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi and Corey Clark.
What is up, everybody? It is Wake Up War Chant, 97.9 ESPN Radio. I'm Aslan alongside Corey Clark, senior writer and columnist for WarChant.com. The show brought to you by For the Table Hospitality and their three great locations over in the College Town District, Madison Social, Township, Central. They're cool. Check them out. You know what's really cool, Corey? You cover a national championship-winning program now. Once more, Florida State back on top of something that matters. Softball, 8-3 winners over Washington. 8 unanswered runs en route to the sweep, Corey. Woo! Champs!
Suck on that, Pac-12. They just won 5 straight over your 3 best teams. None of them were even all that close.
No.
I mean, Florida State just owns the Pacific. This is the first national champion Wake Up War Chant edition, too, right?
It is. It's awesome.
Gotta be. Yeah, it's not like we've been covering a lot of these here lately. So, yeah, man, that was really neat. That was fun to watch. Again, because the way they played the top of that first inning, you're like, oh, golly, they're just melting. This moment's too big for them. They know what's on the line, and they're just going to gag. I mean, that was as bad a first inning as you could play defensively all over the field, like not catching a bunt and letting it roll foul for some reason. Jesse Warren making a terrible throw, the dropping a pop-up, not throwing the girl out at second, a pass ball. Like, you couldn't have asked for a worse first inning, and then to come back and score 8 straight and dominate the game, man, that's just kind of what they did the last 2 weeks. Really, really impressive. Every time I was like, man, this team, just no chance. That's when they would always surprise you, or surprise me. I guess I should speak for myself because I doubt anybody else was that surprised.
Yeah, man, they're adopting their own style of the rope-a-dope. You know, I'll be honest. I admired Washington's moxie. The way they came out, I think did they swing at the first pitch of the game and drive it out? I mean, they just came right out, like bat out of hell. We're not going down like this, guns a-blazing. And I was like, all right, touche. Well done, Washington. Good for you. We'll see you Wednesday. It's fine. But to battle back after you said just an absolute cavalcade of just errors in the top half of the first, to come back, and then Anna Shellnut, resumes her heavy hitting ways and drives a 2-run home run. I tweeted it out. I'm like, what we just witnessed, what Washington just did to Florida State softball was what Florida State football did to Clemson in 2013. Just out the gate, shock and awe. And some guy responds to me, he's like, chill out there, buddy. It's one swing of the bat can change everything. And sure enough, one swing of the bat, the Anna Shellnut 2-run home run, put them right back into it, and they never looked back from that point on. Man, that was a cool way to win it, man. It was a little bit of drama, but you could enjoy it for the most part. It didn't take years off your life like the Jameis guy decided to do back in Pasadena, but we let it slide. It's okay, Jameis.
Or even like game one. I mean, the games couldn't have been any more different. I mean, 0-0 until the 6th inning, and then you have to make an incredible all-time catch to preserve the win in the 7th inning. This one, once they got the 5-3 lead, it felt like it just felt comfortable. I know a 2-run lead isn't comfortable, but it just felt comfortable. And again, I would say the difference between what Washington did and what Florida State did to Clemson in that football game is that it's not like Washington earned those runs. Yeah. Florida State just flat. It would have been like Clemson having 3 straight pick sixes or something. I mean, Florida State went and earned some of those points in Death Valley. Washington just straight up, it's like, here, Florida State was just like, here you go, Washington. Let's give you an early lead to get you some confidence, keep people interested in this. And, the thing that bothered me about Washington is when I really started rooting against them is when the second batter bunted the ball and Jesse Warren threw it in the right field, and she runs over to second and starts beating her chest and screaming. Yeah. It's like, all right, man, you laid down a bunt that was 4 feet. Let's not act like you ripped one off the fence. I mean, you didn't do anything other than put the ball on the ground. The girl threw it away for you. So that was a little odd. But I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to take – and another reason that was so impressive about Florida State, Washington, you're right. They swung at the first pitch. They were screaming at their dugout every time they did something in that first inning. They were trying to be loud and into the game and try to rattle Megan King and rattle Florida State and say this is going to be a different game. And then Shellnut answers in the bottom of the inning and says, nope, sorry, Washington, this isn't going to be easy. And then, they never led again after the first inning.
It was awesome to witness it, man. Like you said, just the way they fought and battled back. I mean, just to me, the fact that, as you said, I mean, they kind of gave Washington, they opened the door for Washington, invited them in for a game contest on a Tuesday evening. But at the end of the day, I mean, they chased the player of the year out of an elimination game in UCLA. They absolutely come out guns a-blazing back and chase Taryn Alvello out of the game as well. I mean, she was quite boisterous and loud, and they reduced her to tears as she got the hook taken out of her there in the game. So, Florida State earned this every single way you could earn, a national title in this sort of format, whether it's softball or baseball. I mean, I don't want to say it's equivalent to going through the losers bracket in Omaha, but man, the walk-off winner in the ACC tournament was just a cool thing. That was a nice kind of, I guess, a first push down the hill for them. But to be in that deficit against LSU, the team that ruined their season last year, to come back and win those 2 games, then you go and lose to UCLA. UCLA looks like they're poised to maybe make a run and be the Pac-12 team that's going to get them back on top of things. To beat Georgia, come back, beat the number 1 seed in Oregon. As I said, you chase the National Player of the Year, Rachel Garcia, out of the game, and then you come back and you beat a Washington team who hadn't lost one single postseason game. They were not trailing at any point in the entire postseason until the solo home run last night from Anna Shelnut. For them to do it the way they did it, and then to be able to kind of be in cruise control in the deciding game, I mean, you really can't draw it up that much better unless they were to beat the Gators or something. But we won't get too greedy on that.
Right, yeah. The national championship is a national championship. And, again, they did cruise, but only after they gave Washington 3 runs. And what I have to imagine, I'm not going to pretend I saw every Florida State softball inning, had to be one of the ugliest defensive innings of the season. On that stage, when you're one win away from a national championship, to do all the things wrong that they did, all of them. Pass ball on the second pitch, third pitch is thrown into right field, the fifth pitch is the second baseman, the center fielder run into each other, the first baseman doesn't field a popped-up bunt that's an easy out. They did so many weird things physically and mentally, and you're like, man, they're not into this game. All right, like you said, all right, we'll see you Wednesday night. Right. And it's just it's something in the DNA of that team that, again, I'll go back to, them giving up that grand slam in Game 2 against LSU when they're cruising with a 5-1 lead. And they're like, all right, we're on to Game 3. We've exercised these demons of LSU. We can't beat them on this field. And then, for those LSU fans who are really loud and really obnoxious, God bless them, but they're obnoxious, they took over the stadium after that grand slam. I mean, and Florida State fans were just – it was like a library. It was just completely – because I think all Florida State fans at that point thought, yep, there goes the season.
Oh, for sure. You
know what I mean? And now 2 weeks later, they're the national champions. And it wasn't like it was easy. I mean, same thing with Game 1. What did that say? How many teams have lost Game 1 and then went on to win the national championship? 3?
They're the only third team in history that's lost their first game and made it through the elimination or losers bracket and then hoisted the trophy at the end of the day.
The third, right?
Yep, third ever.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. And I said that at the beginning of when they lost to UCLA. I'm like, well, that's a wrap. Because it just doesn't happen. It's too hard in softball. The margin for error is too slim to have 6 elimination games against teams that are as good as you and to win all 6. And again, that just goes to that program, that team. They've got 2 pretty special players in Megan King and obviously Jesse Warren, who is up there with the all-timers as far as Florida State athletes. We talked about that play enough in Game 1, but then in her last game, she gets 3 hits, including a home run that's still in the air. I mean, she just absolutely bombed that thing. And, of course, even her last at-bat was scalded.
But it was for an
all-time great player.
It was for an out, though. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, is she really an all-time great? And if you're an all-time great, your last hit is going to be a home run, right? I mean, come on.
I agree with that 100%. And I'll take back what I just said. And it was kind of a disappointment. She kind of disappointed all of us with that last at-bat. But, I mean, just Megan King setting a record for lowest ERA in a Women's College World Series. Just so many heroes to go around. All the stolen bases. Mason, holy moly. I mean, that's your number 9 hitter. She looks like the next superstar at Florida State. It's not like those were flukes. She looks like she should be and can be a great hitter. Same with the number 3 hitter, Sydney Sherrill. I mean, it's not like this is going to stop anytime soon. It shouldn't anyway. They're going to be good again next year. But no matter what happens, I mean, I just think that's a really neat thing these last 2 weeks. The 2008 softball team will always be remembered and will always have the Jessica Warren play. Now gets to go down as the legendary play it was because it helped them win a national championship.
Yeah, it could have been like the Julio Jones catch. Just an amazing play that would have become a footnote in a bittersweet evening, but it will be the crown jewel of an amazing run. And, so many times I kind of scoff at the romanticism of sport, and I place way too much emphasis on winning, and then everything else to me is secondary. I mean, I hope the kids get a degree, but if they don't, if they get us a ring or two, I'm kind of all right with it.
Right.
To see the way Jesse Warren spoke with Holly Rowe after the game, like I got chills, man. It was super cool to see a girl who performs that well also be able to carry herself so well. I mean, I'm not trying to say she's a smarter than average girl or anything like that, but in that moment, just all the emotions you're going through so many times, I don't know what to say. It's just such an awesome moment, but she articulated everything, talked about, everything we kind of touched upon with this team rallying back from what they endured in earlier in the postseason to win. And, she talked about how she's so proud to be a Seminole. This is for everybody who's ever worn the jersey before her. And I mean, all that sort of stuff. To see her be the face of a program on that stage, you're like, that's awesome. That's my school, and she's wearing my colors. And, if you don't know anything about Florida State or you only know this or that about the football team, like if you watched her interview, you're like, dang, that's an impressive young lady. So it's just an added bonus, man. They did it the right way, and they did it in flying colors, man. It was pretty sweet. By the way, her Twitter account, Corey, is Jessica Warren. So you can call her Jessica if you want. It's fine. I'm not going to get upset.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I grew up calling her Jessica Warren. Yeah. And, I guess I shouldn't say I grew up calling her, but I've called her that for 3 years, and then all of a sudden we're told, no, it's Jessie. I'm like, man, this is a hard habit to break. I've been calling her Jessica Warren forever. I wrote a story on her last year, a long one, where it was Jessica Warren throughout. So that was a little odd.
What if Charlie Ward's like, I want to be called Chuck? It's like last year.
Or Charles.
He's going
to be Charles Ward.
Call me Charles. I want to be Charles.
Yeah, no, we got to go. I guess we got to honor his wishes.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Jesse Warren, again, I think it's like, she is one of the all-time best that's ever done it in that sport, period. And what was really neat is I don't think we, as Florida State people that cover Florida State and as Florida State fans, the ACC is so lampooned as a conference that Jessica Warren didn't get nearly as much fanfare as she should have the last 4 years because people thought her stats were inflated because of what conference she played in. Oh, yeah, go play in the SEC and try to hit 18 home runs a year or 20 home runs a year, whatever. So so for her to do it on this stage to set or to tie the all-time record for hits in a College World Series, all against Pac-12 teams, then what else do you need to see? When I wrote my story on her, I didn't get into it. This was last year, but she's never really even gotten a sniff for USA Baseball.
She's not on the team. How is she not on the team?
No, I mean, you're telling me there are 15 or 16 players in the country better than her? But it's because of the prism that people look at Florida State softball because of the ACC. I don't think they respect it. She also didn't play a lot of travel softball coming up, so she wasn't out there. Her name wasn't out there. She wasn't highly recruited. But good heavens, she is as good at what she does as Jameis Winston was at what he did. She's just an incredible, incredible softball player, and I hope she gets a look from USA Softball because she deserves it because she's frankly awesome. And like you said, she's a great ambassador for the university. She's a great ambassador for the sport, and I just think it's really neat for her to go out like that and for her name to now be known not just in Florida State circles, the niche Florida State softball fans, but everybody in the country knows her name. At least they know that play. Kobe Bryant retweeted that catch.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I mean, it took off across everybody knows that catch now. And so she made her name with that, and then also being the most outstanding player, coming up big when her team needed it the most. Just, it's really cool to see greatness shine on the biggest stage.
For sure, man. And speaking of greatness, coming up here on the program, we'll have our own Ira Schoffel, the managing editor of WarChant.com, who's out in Oklahoma City to share his thoughts on, once again, Florida State winning their first ever national championship in women's softball. We'll be back with that and more. It's Wake Up WarChant. It's 97.9 ESPN Radio in Tallahassee.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. WARCHANT.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.
Welcome on back to the program. It's Wake Up War Chant, 97.9 ESPN Radio. I'm Aslan. He's Corey, and joining us now from Oklahoma City, none other than the managing editor of WarChant.com, Ira Schoffel. Ira, you just witnessed a national champion performance. What's it feel like? What did it look like? What did it feel like?
I feel like I should be going to Disney World, Aslan.
Yeah.
I mean, it was incredible. I mean, it really was. And, and one of the things I'm writing about is just, and I'm not going to write about me, but just, I think you get a different perspective as you get older. I think when I covered championships when you're younger and you kind of focus on the moment and the plays and the scores and all, what goes into it. But then, as you get older and you have kids, and Corey can talk about this too, you just kind of, you see what they go through to have success at any level. And then you see them have this kind of success, and all the parents went on the field after the game. They brought them all out and they're all hugging. And I mean, some of these kids, the players and their parents are sobbing, on the field, just all the memories coming back from, when they started playing softball when they're 6 years old, and all the hours that they put in to see it all culminate with a national championship. It was a really cool moment to be on the field and see it all. I mean, we all took videos and put pictures, and everybody can see some of it, but to be there and experience it beyond just how well they played, which was awesome, seeing that celebration was really one of the really more memorable things I've ever covered.
Spoken like a father of three daughters.
I think I speak for all of us. When my first question to you is, do you think they'll go to the White House?
Maybe we could debate that. Should we debate that?
No, that was a joke. My question is, you talk about having kids and what that means, and just because you're right. When you get older, you put yourself in the position of Elizabeth Mason's dad.
Mm-hmm.
And when she hits that home run, that reaction that he had and the mom had, it's like, man, think of all those nights they're on the road to Panama City, or they're on the road to Gulf Shores, Alabama for some nondescript travel tournament when she's 13 years old. And that's their whole summer for probably a decade. And then it culminates in something like that. Is really neat. And so did you in the moment kind of put yourself in that spot? Like I know obviously you have a daughter that plays basketball. She doesn't travel all over the Southeast, but you have to dedicate a lot of time to her basketball. So obviously I'm not saying that she's going to be at the Final Four. It'd be awesome if she was, and you'd be cheering and when she hits the game-winning three. But do you take yourself there and what those parents must have been through and all the sacrifices the parents make to get their kids in a spot like this?
It really did. Once you see the embraces, and I talked to Elizabeth Mason's dad, about that, and he was on TV when she hit the home run. So he said he had like over 100 text messages in the first just a few minutes from people who were watching that and how special it was, and him just their celebration. And and she talked about it in the post-game press conference. She talked about how her dad, he was her coach. He was her coach in softball. So when she was 6 years old, he was dragging her not dragging her, but waking her up at 6 a.m. to go take some BP. And, just neat to see these, just them rewarded. And then Lonnie Alameda, I mean, the coach, who, we've all gotten to talk to through the years, and is just really a nice person, a good person to deal with, for her and, her coaching staff. And they were open about, look, we failed. We failed here before. We came out here, several times and have not gotten it done, and we've learned from it. And, they've done things to really enjoy it. And I think that was the key to this team you saw it, everybody saw it. They just enjoyed every moment of playing. And I think it resulted in them never getting down, even when they had that just crazy first inning where they looked like they'd never played softball before. And then, again, they just didn't get too down about it. They stayed upbeat, and they came through.
Managing editor, Ira Schoffel of WarChant.com, joining us here on Wake Up War Chant from Oklahoma City. Corey?
It legit looked like they didn't know the rules of the sport for a while there in the first inning. Like it really did look like they hadn't played before a couple of those plays. But isn't that kind of what they needed? This team, I mean, it's almost like they didn't want to be a front runner. It's like, okay, if they're not going to push our backs against the wall, let's jump into the wall ourselves, just so we can get off we can come back fighting. Because again, I think the coolest thing about this team what should be remembered, obviously the national championship and Jesse Warren's incredible play, is how they persevered when you give up that grand slam in Game 2 to LSU. You lose the first game to UCLA. Nobody ever comes back from the loser's bracket in the Women's College World Series. Don't you think that's almost the legacy as much as them hoisting the trophy is what they had to do to get it?
Yeah, and Lonnie Alameda actually said that after the game. I asked her, what did you say after that top half of the first? And basically that's what she said. She said, look, you guys don't know how to play apparently when our backs are not against the wall, so you went ahead and did it. And she said that part of the problem was, they've gotten so much love on social media, people, text messages, phone calls, emails from old friends, people flying in for these games. I mean, they literally had friends and family flying in yesterday and today for this moment, and I think they got a little bit overwhelmed. But they get the big home run. Shelnut hits the home run and gets them right back in it. And from there, they just dominated. And if you really, Tim Littefeld, who was covering it there for Seminoles.com, we were talking, and he made the point that, really you take about one inning against UCLA in the first game, and then that first inning tonight, they had 2 innings where they didn't play well. The rest of this tournament, they boat raced the best teams in the country. And for Florida State to do that, it's a big deal.
Ira, this is a big deal, right? I mean, some people want to laugh and mock we're softball school now. Just can you kind of maybe help us understand the gravity of it? I mean, you talked about the emotion that, the families are feeling, but just in terms of another sort of notch in the belt of Florida State athletics coming off an Elite Eight trip in basketball and, the consistency on the diamond from the other sport. But
don't forget the big bowl win in Shreveport.
Women's volleyball also coming up shy in the national championship. I mean, it's. This is. Maybe the start of something really special with Florida State athletics, especially with the softball team.
Well, I think the cool thing is that I think people it really and Lonnie again talked about growing the sport and wanting to grow the sport, and I think this team grew appreciation for softball. Certainly in Tallahassee, probably in the state of Florida, and nobody. A lot of people watch softball for the first time these last couple of weeks, and I haven't heard one person say, "Wow, that's not cool." I mean, everybody that's been watching it for the first time has been really in love with this team and in love, with what they've seen and the competition and the level of play. So I think it is a big deal, and I also think it's a big deal for Florida State as a brand because one thing, a lot of people talked about how in the national broadcast, like on ESPN, that they talked so much about UCLA, they talked so much about Washington and the Pac-12 schools, and they really kind of gave FSU a little bit of short shrift. And I think the reason that is because nobody sees FSU as an underdog, even when they're playing a sport where they haven't had great success. They're never lovable. Like when the men's basketball team went to the Elite Eight, usually a team that hasn't had success has a run like that, the national media all embrace them. But that didn't really happen because Florida State is seen as Florida State from football. So I think this is big because, again, it just solidifies what FSU is a program beyond just football.
And doesn't it also cement Jesse Warren's status?
Oh. Man, you've been saying it.
The home run she hit, wasn't that, were you you're right behind home plate? So what was that like seeing that ball? Did it rise like a 3-iron or a 2-iron? What did it look like from your vantage point?
Yeah, man, it was very much a line drive. I mean, as soon as she hit it, you could see the outfielders start sprinting backwards, not just feeling back for the wall. The center fielder just turned around and started sprinting. Yeah, I mean, it was a monster, and and that's she's another one, man. She was bawling on the field. I mean, that's the thing, man. Again, we cover sports, and sometimes when you cover sports, you wonder, what are we doing? It's just a game, and how much does it mean? But when you see these people put in so many years and years and years of work, and she's a senior. This is her last shot, and to go through some injuries and everything else, and then to have that day yesterday, and then to come out the first inning and Aaron Mel just makes a terrible error. You just think that is she going to come back down to earth, and then to come back and do what she did at the plate? It was really amazing. I mean, that's the thing. And then when everybody's talking about the team, who's the MVP of the tournament, it's well, Megan King, is it Jesse Warren, is it Shelnut? I mean, they had so many options. They were just dominant.
Is Jesse Warren on your Mount Rushmore of Florida State athletes?
That's your favorite sports talk show question.
I'm going to ask you about LeBron and Jordan after this, but I just want to know your Mount Rushmore of Florida State athletes.
She might get a spot, buddy. She might get a spot.
Hey, do you think for real though that she's as good at her sport? It's hard to say athletes because people want to talk about Dion and running fast and jumping high and all. They're such different endeavors. But don't you agree with me that she's as good at her sport as almost anybody that's ever been at Florida State at their sport?
Man, it'd be. I don't know why anybody would argue against it. I don't know how they could. I mean, it's one of those things. If you say it, people kind of jump back because it's not something they think about or think about it in those terms. But I mean, in terms of dominating at your sport, dominating at your position, yeah, there's no question. I mean, she's at a different level than whoever she's playing against. I mean, it's not to say she's going to hit a home run every at bat or that she's going to field every ball perfectly. She did have an error in that game, but in terms of just being at a different level than everybody else, I mean, she definitely meets that criteria, no question.
Just like you do.
Of course.
Ira, what's the flight like on the way back? Same thing? Houston, Atlanta, Tallahassee?
You know what? I think it is. I didn't even look at that. I think it is, but the bigger problem is the flight's not back is not till Thursday.
Oh.
So now we got to do some wheeling and dealing and see if we can get back a day earlier. But
get
man,
on a train.
The toughest thing. Maybe I could Uber back, but the toughest thing is they're literally. I mean, we just interviewed. I mean, I interviewed parents and players and coaches and administrators and friends of the program. I mean, like we could write 15 stories. So it's going to be a busy couple of days putting up content on the site because there's a lot of really fun stories to tell.
Well, we got no baseball stories
everybody
to tell.
On War Chant, which is obviously a predominantly football site, a heavy site because it's Florida State. Everybody is fired up about this thing. Like all the threads on the tribal council were about softball, which is awesome.
Of course, you're going to have the people who are like, "You all Johnny come latelys." I've been with softball since day one. Well, and I joked about, I tweeted about that when we came out here, and when like Lonnie Alameda was like, she said they've had so many people say that, like, "Hey, is there more room in the bandwagon?" And she's like, "Believe me, we're going to take anybody that wants to support us." So it has been cool. Certainly, like you said, on the tribal council of all places, for everybody to be this psyched up. I mean, there might have been a year where you put up a softball thread and you might not have gotten any posts. And now, everybody wants to talk about this team. Hey, real quick, I think they're going to announce it. They're probably, if they haven't announced it yet, I'm sure they will early tomorrow. But they're probably going to have a celebration for the team. I think maybe on Friday. So look out for that. That should be really a chance for the people who weren't out in Oklahoma City to embrace the team and celebrate with them.
Cool. That gives me something to do. Ira Schoffel, you guys don't understand, really. Corey gives him a hard time. Ira works his rear end off, man. You couldn't tell by the way he looks, but he works his rear end off. I promise you, man. Our managing editor out in Oklahoma City. Ira, thanks for the time, man. Safe travels on your way back.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
No, he hung up again.
I mean, I'm not doing it anymore. That's 3 times I've told him I love him, and he won't ever say it back. I can't even get like a ditto.
Unrequited love. Welcome to my world, Corey. We'll be right back after this. It's 97.9 ESPN Radio. It's Wake Up War Chant.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Wake up! It's Wake Up War Chant, 97.9 ESPN Radio. I'm Aslan. He's Corey. It's 97.9 ESPN Radio. Brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. Did you see them give Madison Social a shout-out during the telecast, Corey? Forgot to mention that.
I did, yeah. The viewing party on at Madso. Yeah, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I should have gone. and maybe got some FaceTime. Hung out with everybody.
Yeah, that's true. You should have been right up in front of the camera.
Yeah.
With a Wake Up War Chant koozie or something.
Yeah, like a shirt. Like, yeah. If we had one, I'd have to go all Willie Taggart and, get a permanent marker and write it on my shirt like Amp Lee or whatever.
Well, sure.
So my favorite part of the game, besides the actual game and winning, was Twitter. And I think after, the home run from Elizabeth Mason was hit, you tweeted out that if, they better not put the cameras on Corey Clark, Papa Clark, if Brady does something good, because every other word out of your mouth is going to be an expletive. And I was just, the rest of the night, pretty much just spent just imagining like the camera focusing on you, just kind of like all clutched up. And then as soon as Brady goes yard, you just look at the camera, you're like, "That's my boy. Eep, that's my boy."
Yeah. Remember when he was 8? Couldn't make the All-Star team? Remember that? Oh, he's an all-star now, isn't he? Yeah, man, when I think about that, and obviously I'm not expecting, and nor will he be on that level of Elizabeth Mason or where he's playing.
Not with that
on
attitude,
ESPN.
Corey. Come on, man.
I mean, look, the odds are severely stacked against him, so I'm not expecting that. But I can't even imagine what my nerves would be like watching that. Maybe you just get used to it, because I get so nervous for him even now that it's hard. You know, there was a game last year. This is a rec league game. And he's 8-year-olds. It's all kid pitch. He hadn't pitched the year before. He batted right. He batted last and played right field. This next year, when he turned 8, he became a good player. But anyway, he comes into the game with a 1-run lead, a 3-2 game in the 5th inning, and it proceeds to walk the bases loaded with 1 out. And I just felt, because I know he wants it so bad, that you just get so nervous for him. And then he struck out the next 2 kid on 6 pitches, and you want to go, just run around the park with your clothes off. Well, that's not.
No, it
man,
is.
Please,
that's what I would do.
We should probably edit that out, because you do not. People, anybody
weird.
listening to this,
get weird.
Don't take your clothes off and run around a little league park. That's not what. That was a really weird thing that I said there. But you just get so excited for them. It's not for me like, oh yeah, look at my son. It's just you get so excited for them and so nervous for them. So to see those parents really kind of hits home, even though my son is 9 and their kids are 18, 19, 20 years old. They're adults. It's just I even when I watch Major League Baseball and I'm watching Freddie Freeman, I'm like, man, how proud must his dad be? But how nervous must he still be when he comes up with the bases loaded? I just wonder if that ever goes away. So to see Elizabeth Mason's parents react like that when she hit that home run, that just, I think more than anything, quite honestly, I don't think I would curse as much as I might start breaking down a little bit and getting really emotional and really happy for him.
I would go straight up Ultimate Warrior. I'd be like grabbing the chain link fence and just rattling it and be like, yeah, get some. My kid.
Yeah, I might try to climb it or just jump on the dugout.
Yeah. Off the top rope. Yeah, I mean, her dad, they need to make videos of him, just cut the videos of him yelling go and just put it up in Doak. On 3rd downs. I mean, they put the guys behind a backdrop.
Down to talk Willie into going for it.
There you go. All right, now you're talking. Now we're cooking with gas. Guy. Yeah, that was another subplot, obviously, of the entire week, and them rallying back was sort of seeing that stuff. So I mean, it's crazy too. Like you said, that's the 9-hole hitter for them. I really should have sized up the roster during commercial break and let people know who's kind of coming back, but. I mean, the thing is, they've been on the cusp of this before. I mean, they haven't made it to the championship series, but they've been to Omaha. They had that sort of dubious distinction of what being the program who made it out to Oklahoma City the most amount of times and not walked out of there with the trophy. So now, I mean, they have that sort of monkey off their back. So I just wonder if that kind of maybe, I don't know, it opens up the floodgates for them, but it's got to be a huge thing moving forward to, kind of nudge back into the picture after Florida kind of stole some of the win from them a few years back.
Well, certainly will be big for recruiting just to be on TV for the last week. In the way they play, in the way Lonnie is, you saw the difference in the Washington coach. She's calling out her kids on national television for having terrible at-bats. Meanwhile, they asked Lonnie what she said to her team after that horrid butchered inning. And she said she went out there and said, hey, have fun. Look around. This is neat. We're going to hit. We know we can hit. So I have to imagine that's really enticing to the best players in the country, too, no matter where they are. And they get them from all over the country for, to see that and go, man, that seems like a fun program to play for. Not just that they win, but, man, they seem to have fun with each other. And so that, it's all great. And, you got to hope that she, not to bring it back, but you got to hope that she keeps her national championship program rolling just a little better than the last person here to win a national championship.
All right, there you go.
Actually, that's not true because Krikorian won one in 2014, and his team is still really good. So, sorry, folks, I was talking about Jimbo Fisher, the 2013 national championship football head coach.
Just to clear it up for you. One thing you did mention that we could possibly use as a segue was the fact that, for the last, 7-10 days, Florida State's been on national television winning, softball games and winning them in extraordinary fashion. And, families and young ladies are able to watch that and probably want to hop aboard, what Lonnie Almeida is really sort of created out here in Tallahassee. But in the same vein, and this was something that, I don't know, just call me an idiot, I guess. It never really kind of came to my mind or to my consciousness until somebody posted on the Tribal Council, but John Harper, I don't know if I've never heard of him, but he's apparently a columnist for the New York Daily News. And New York Daily News, everybody, New York City, New York, the city's so nice I've name it twice.
Right.
Wrote a column about Mike Martin putting Drew Parrish out there. And it has a quote from Al Leiter, who obviously, pitched in the bigs, and I think also had comment from somebody in the front office from the Mets, just absolutely lambasting 11 for dare putting Drew Parrish back out there. And, people started pointing out on the tribal council or the baseball message board over on warchant.com. Get your free 30-day trial, warchant 30. I mean, Kevin O'Sullivan doesn't really need that much help recruiting, but anybody else that's going against Florida, or Florida State rather, you link that column of a guy in New York City saying that the Florida State coach absolutely was derelict of duty in sending a 20-year-old kid out there after 100-plus pitches after a 2.5-hour delay, and he's citing major league players and front office personnel saying that it, too, was absolutely absurd. Is there going to be collateral damage or a fallout from that?
Well, you just got to hope that your baseball recruits don't read the New York Daily News, and then you're in good shape. I think there's, again, when it happened at the time, it was an odd thing to do, and it's certainly if you're recruiting against Florida State, that would be something you could bring up if you're both recruiting an electric arm. Then again, college baseball recruiting is so goofy anyway. There aren't many guys that show up on your campus that are 94 that are guys that have a few that for sure have a future in pro ball. They're just not. Most of them go pro. The great ones, the good ones, if they're drafted in the top 10 rounds, they're going pro right out of high school. So I don't know how many. If with an elite arm, I think if you're the dad of an elite pitcher, you might listen to that a little bit. But I also think if it matters to you and you care about. You really are interested in Florida State and you want to pitch for Mike Bell or you want to pitch for Mike Martin, you would get the real story of what happened there. And you could even say, hey, man, don't do that to my kid. And they'd go, yeah, okay. What's funny about that is that, or maybe they wouldn't. I think they will learn a lesson from this. I don't think they should do it. I'm not that caught up in the health risk. It was 24 extra pitches.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to require Tommy John surgery.
No, I'm with you.
But I don't even go into it again. But my biggest problem was that you were asking somebody to do something they have never done. But I remember talking to the Florida State coaches a few years ago when North Carolina brought back their game one starter and their ace, like they're a legit Friday night guy, to pitch the last 7 innings of this crazy marathon extra inning game to stay alive in the regional. And the game ended at like 3 a.m, and that kid I think pitched like 6 or 7 innings on top of pitching 8 innings 48 hours ago. He probably threw 230 pitches over the weekend. And North Carolina still recruits kids. It's not like they started. Their cupboard was bare. I just think, for whatever reason, but they certainly said, hey, we're gonna use that against North Carolina. I think they were being facetious when they said it. They were just joking about, man, that's crazy that they did that. And this isn't nearly as egregious as that. It's not nearly as egregious as many things I've seen in baseball over the years. It was just bizarre. And golly, it seems like there's more to write about in New York than Mike Martin and Drew Parrish, but in 28 extra pitches. So I don't know. I think that's a little much, but maybe slow news day. The guy wanted to get some advice, wanted to get some opinions on what he heard about. And they all said, yeah, that's crazy. And it was crazy. He's never done that before, as far as I know, at least since I've been covering him. It was out of nowhere, and it cost him a spot to win a chance to win a regional.
Columnists called it, quote, borderline criminal. Rick Peterson, a former New York Mets and Oakland Athletics pitching coach, said, quote, it makes me sick. It's incredibly dangerous. That's just like,
I think that's a little much, but also they know what they're talking about, man. And again, I think. And this isn't just in relation to Mike Martin. It's in relation to college coaches everywhere. Quite frankly, travel ball coaches too. All coaches up the line. If you treat your pitchers like the major league guys treat their pitchers, everybody would be better. But, I covered a high school baseball state championship in Georgia. This would have been 2003-ish, 4-ish, where a team pitched 3 games. So it's the best 2 out of 3 in Georgia, not like they do it in Florida, which is just goofy. You play a best 2 out of 3 series. The team, Harlem, Georgia, used 2 pitchers for the whole 3-game series. 2 pitchers total. Each of them threw over 180 pitches in 24 hours. One kid threw over 200. Jeez. It's that, and I wrote a column about it, saying how disgusting it was. And the coach for the team that lost said, if that's what it takes to win a state championship, I don't want one. And I agreed with him. I don't think this is on the level of that. It was 28 extra pitches after a 2.5-hour delay. I don't know if that's going to crush the guy's arm. I don't think that's going to ruin Drew Parrish's arm. I just think it was putting him in a situation he wasn't used to. That, to me, was the bigger offense than 25 extra pitches. Heaven knows, man, these coaches, some of these college coaches, will pitch kids. I listen, Matt Harvey, one of his games at North Carolina, again, going back to North Carolina, he threw over 170 pitches in the game, 180 pitches. This was 12 years ago. And now, you know what I mean?
Ty
that,
Cobb
to me, is borderline criminal.
Yeah. Ty Cobb had no problem throwing 170 pitches on the back end of a doubleheader.
Ty Cobb wasn't a pitcher.
Oh, Cy Young.
Come on, man.
Cy Young, sorry.
Cy Young, but
Sorry.
Cy Young. Ty Cobb had no problem spiking everybody.
Yeah, doing anything else.
And saying really racist things.
Cy Young was probably a sweet man. I'm sorry to
Ty Cobb was an awful human being who happened to be a great hitter.
Touche. It's one of those things where you see that and you're like, what? Why are they talking about it? And then you read the quotes. I mean, not to drive the nail any further in, but Al Leiter said it's shameful. Mike Martin's a legend, but oh my God, 2.5 hours, that scares the hell out of me. He says he's not a big pitch count guy, but to say the kid wanted the ball, that's a really bad answer. I just hope this situation gets so much attention that it will put coaches everywhere on alert. That seems a little bit much. I mean, I certainly trust Al Leiter and the pitching coach for the A's and some guy in the front office in the Mets more than myself. So if it's and I said at the time, Chipper Jones said the same thing. I mean, it just isn't a good look, and it didn't make any sense, and they shouldn't have done it. It's not a fireable offense. It's not borderline criminal. Drew Parrish is going to be okay. Those 20 extra pitches aren't going to lead him to the surgery. But it was just, it wasn't a good look, and it wasn't a great moment for Florida State baseball. And, and a week from now, we'll forget about it. Oh, and I lied.
Because we'll still be celebrating the softball championship.
Yeah, there is one other thing I want to touch on. I know we're going really heavy on this segment, but, in the post-game press conference, 11 pointed out the fact that Drew's not going to throw for anybody this summer. But I saw somewhere where a Cape Cod team, either retweeted or liked something involving Drew Parrish, and they were saying that Drew's going to be pitching for them this summer. So, like that, to me, there's several things that have happened after the fact that have just made it a little more dubious in my mind. I mean, first off, as soon as it happened, he comes in there and says that it was a great pitch. It was low and away. But then on replay, it was dead center. I mean, it was BP. And then he says that, Drew's not going to be pitching for anybody this summer. He's got all, summer to rest. And then you see that he's probably going to be pitching for in the Cape Cod League. And you're like, well, what's going on here? Does one hand know what the other's doing? So I don't know, just, again, to trigger the people at home, bad look. Ouch. Sorry, said again, bad look. Ow.
Yeah, just a bad moment. Certainly not one of a moment that will be remembered as one of 11's best. I mean, we got it. I don't know what else we can do about it. It was a mistake. It certainly was a mistake strategically. Excuse me. They seem to think it was a mistake. Many people seem to think it was a mistake safety wise, but it was certainly a mistake strategically, and it cost them the rest of their season. So. That they have to live with that all off season. And I can't promise you, but I'm pretty confident the next time something like this happens, because it's happened every other time, the starting pitcher won't come back out there after another goofy Tallahassee weather delay.
Hey, let's argue about the quarterbacks. You're done arguing about this. I can sense, Corey. So let's just go back to Old Faithful. Let's argue about the quarterbacks. That's next. It's ESPN 97.9. It's Wake Up War Chant.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Welcome back on in. It's Wake Up War Chant. I'm Aslan. He's Corey Clark. It's 97.9 ESPN Radio here in Tallahassee. Show's brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. We got to talk about the MLB baseball draft, but we did tease quarterback arguments. So let's try to keep it a little bit brief. Willie Taggart had his junior Noles camp yesterday, Corey. It was for grades 1 through 8. He's actually been having it. I think he's having it today as well. It's a 3-day sort of thing. It's not all 3 days, but there's 3 days. You can bring your kids whenever. And he talked about the quarterback, I guess not situation, but updated us on DeAndre. And this is probably the more flattering comments that he's made about DeAndre ever since he's arrived here in Tallahassee.
He's doing everything, again, he said he was going to do. You know, all those things I said, also things that DeAndre said he wanted to do, and he's doing it. He was out here a minute ago, but he had to go to class. He's out at all these camps and clinics helping out. You see him all the time. He's smiling. He's with his teammates, and I think he's doing the things that he says he's going to do. So that's what it's going to take.
I mean, that's pretty encouraging stuff if you're in the Francois camp.
Well, is it, and here we go again with that. Like, I hope everybody's in the Francois camp and the Blackman camp. You're just in the camp of whoever's the best for the job, but that is good to hear. Because, again, I think no matter even if he doesn't win the job, you're going to need him at some point. And, you want him to be a good teammate, because if he doesn't win the job, that means he's really going to have to be a good teammate. He's still going to have to be bought in, and he's still going to have to be cheering for his team, because he will be needed at some point. Backup quarterbacks are always needed through the course of a season, almost always. And I just don't see this being any different. But, yeah, man, it's good to hear. We'll see how it translates on the field, and we'll see if it translates off the field. But, yeah, you'd rather hear your head coach saying that than saying, well, yeah, he's still trying to buy in. He's still struggling a little bit, but he'll get there. It seems like Willie seemed much more upbeat about him than he has in the past. Yeah. Which is good news, right?
For sure. He's been guarded, it feels like, or cautiously skeptical perhaps, and now he's cautiously optimistic. He did add about Francois' health, a quote, he's doing a lot more running now. He's doing some things in the weight room that he was not able to do in spring, so he's right on course. So, again, good news in the quarterback battle, which we'll be talking about for plenty of weeks and months to come. But, hey, the MLB Draft, 10 rounds in the books, whole bunch of Noles off the board yesterday. The first guy that did come off the board, none other than Cal Raleigh. He goes third round to the Seattle Mariners. Cole Sands, fifth round to the Twinkies. Andrew Karp, sixth round to the Nats. Jackson Luke goes to Kansas City, eighth round. And Tyler Holton, Tallahassee's own, ninth round pick by the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're all gone, right, Corey?
Well, the first four for sure. Like I said yesterday,
still holding out hope. All right, I like it, Corey. A lot of people are hanging on to your words, Corey, and I am too.
No. Remember, I said yesterday there's probably about a 12% chance that Holton comes back. Cal Raleigh 0. We'll go 1% chance for those other guys. 12% for Holton, only because he won't be able to pitch till April anyway. And the slot for that amount, the people that don't know. Every pick in the MLB draft has a slot value. In the first 10 rounds, has a slot value associated to it, where it's like a suggestion from MLB. This is the area you need to stay around when you're giving signing bonuses to kids drafted in this slot. So for the ninth round pick, whatever he was, 220 or 270, whatever it was, is like $133,000. Not chump change, not life changing money, but not chump change. But again, he was asking for so much more than that last year, which is why he didn't get drafted until the 35th round, because he was asking for so much more than that, because he thinks he's worth a lot more than that. If he would have told people last year he'd have signed for $200,000, he'd have been a fifth-round pick or earlier. Yeah. But they knew what he was asking for, so they didn't take him. Well, now that he was drafted in the ninth, so he thought he was worth, let's say he thought he was worth $750,000. Well, now if he signs, that's $620,000 less than what he thinks he's worth. And all he's really risking is 2 months of not playing college baseball. Like, again, my thinking is
playing pro baseball, you mean?
He'd only have to pitch for 2 months.
Yeah.
And then he's going to be drafted again. And if he shows that he can pitch, he's going to be drafted much higher than the ninth round. But he's also, he was a draft eligible sophomore. So he's an older junior, so he'd be an older redshirt junior, 23 years old. He, part of him probably just wants to get into a system and even just start rehabbing with them. He's not going to be able to pitch in spring training, but he can start rehabbing with them. And then next April, instead of pitching against Louisville, he's pitching in the South Atlantic League somewhere, and that's where he makes his debut. I mean, I can see that too. That's probably what will happen, but at least there's a tiny bit of drama with him, I would think. Other than the other four, if you're Cole Sands and Andrew Karp, obviously Cole Sands he's not coming back.
Good for Andrew Karp, man. Good for Andrew Karp. Awesome. Sixth round, $239,000 that pick is slotted at. Tyler Holton's approximate pick value they're saying is $144,800. So
yeah. So again,
what about Jackson Luke though, Corey? Jackson Luke, he's only 163. Jackson Luke can't come back and hit 15 dingers, but maybe bat 315 and become a 4th-round pick or something? I mean, why is Jackson Luke automatically leaving?
He could, but I just think he's started and hit for 3 years. He's injury prone. He's always had a hard time staying healthy, and there's no guarantee that he hits better than he does next year. He hits better next year, and then he's a kid that's hit 230 2 years in a row, and instead of being an 8th-round pick, he's a 15th-round pick. I don't know. Yeah. I think they don't ever come back. The top 10-round picks at Florida State, at almost all schools, just don't come back. They know they're gone. They knew when Jackson Luke started as a freshman, he'd be leaving as a junior. Same with Cal Raleigh. They just don't come back. So, James Ramsey's the only one that I can remember that came back after being – and he was only drafted like the 23rd round, but he hit so well in the Cape Cod League, he got offered a ton of money, but he still came back. He's the only one that they've really had that has turned down money to come back. I just don't see it with those guys. I just think they've had 3 years of college baseball starting, played in the College World Series. They're ready to get on with their pro careers, and I don't blame them because there isn't a guarantee that you come back and you hit 330 and then you become a 4th-round pick or a 2nd-round pick. So, when they get here, much like the college football players, the way it's turning to be in college football, if you're going to get drafted, you're leaving after your junior year.
See, I don't know. I always feel if there's one sport where I don't want to say automatic, but the one sport I feel like you have the best chance of improving year over year, I feel like in college is baseball, more so than football and basketball. But
right, but the difference is you don't have any leverage when you're negotiating with these teams because you can't go back anywhere. So say Jackson Luke comes back next year and hits 310 with 16 home runs, gets drafted in the 7th round, and they say, "Hey man, we're going to give you $80,000," and he's like, "Well, no, the slot is for $290." It's like, well, okay, we know what the slot is, but we're only going to offer you 80 or 100. What's he going to do? Say no? Right. Where does he go? Yeah. Just play independent ball? I mean, you lose all the leverage when you come back for your senior year. So that's another element into why all these guys leave after their junior years. Cal Raleigh can at least pump fake. Like, hey, man, I love Florida State. Yeah. I want to go back and win a national title. I want to get 11 his first title. I want to catch Drew Parrish's last pitch instead of seeing it sail over a fence. I want to catch Drew Parrish again. So I'm going back to school unless you give me $890,000. He's got that leverage that if a senior he wouldn't get that. He just wouldn't have.
Yeah. And I'm probably going to forget this, but I see it right in front of me, so I'll just say it now. Happy early birthday to Tyler Holton. He'll turn 22 on the 13th of June. So,
hey, my birthday is June 14th.
Oh, look at that, man! Fantastic.
Well, Flag Day, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Also, our president is his birthday is on June 14th, and Steffi Graf, and Yasmin Bleeth.
What? Oh, my girl. Ooh, Yasmin Bleeth.
Oh, sweet Yasmin.
Yasmin Bleeth. Oh, that dark hair and those light eyes, the little bit of freckles, a cute little button nose. All right. I'm going to go on a Google spree. We're done for the day, right? We're done. That's right. All right. He's Corey Aslan. Thanks for listening, folks. Jeff Cameron coming up at 3 o'clock.
The Sod Cemetery, Osceola and Renegade, and of course, the War Chant. These are great traditions known to all Seminole fans. If you are a card-carrying, garnet, and gold-wearing Nole, don't you deserve a site that is truly dedicated to covering FSU sports? WarChant.com's staff has over 50 years of experience covering the Seminoles. WarChant.com is the only FSU outlet with a full-time recruiting analyst in Tallahassee. Plus, it's the only site with a full-time videographer and a daily podcast, 100% dedicated to FSU sports. Why act like Gators and settle for second best? WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.